Welcome once again to the newest edition of 3 in, 3 out. But this time it is a Fantasy Island preview. So I am bringing in, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it right away. I'm bringing in Hawk Van Dyke, aka Bloomy, aka Dave Bloomquist, coming in from the UK. You might know him from such places as the Seahawkers Pod Ring of Honor or the Seahawkers Pod Discord, maybe out on Twitter. Lots of great snark out there as well. And for this particular discussion, Dave, folks might know you from the Seahawkers Pod Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League we have, which is 2 leagues deep, 2 tiers. It's really, really cool stuff. Yes, it's 3 in, 3 out. Yes, it's still preseason. We're going to hone all that good energy and talk about Seahawks stuff mainly, but through the lens of fantasy football, and give some tips, give some drips, and just talk about our love for fantasy. We know Adam will love this one. He's a big fantasy football guy, of course. And Dave, welcome to the pod. Fired up to talk fantasy with you, dude. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And it's been great having you as a league mate in the Ring of Honor Football League. If you can remember what happened last year, it was a little disappointing for me where I went into the last night with only needing a very small amount of points from Joe Burrow and Ty Bass, my kicker. And then all of a sudden, Hamlin happened and I lost the championship because of it. But luckily, the league mates were very good about the make good for it. And it was disappointing, but we all know who was the best.
So we'll have to play it out. The nice part about so Dave, tell folks who are out there, quickly about the Ring of Honor Seahawkers Pod Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League. It's got some cool little twists to it that you have helped put into place, and I think it just helps set the stage for our listeners and also folks that, hey, if you're a listener of the Seahawkers Pod and Adam might call you a freeloader or Brandon might call you a freeloader, and you want to go to get in the flock so you can get into the Discord, so you can get into the Ring of Honor, so you can get other access to cool things like the fantasy football leagues we do, please do that. And of course, like the videos out on YouTube, it helps a ton. Back to the good stuff, fantasy football. Tell the folks about this special league that you helped manifest.
Well, Ross Bell, actually, our friend from out here in the UK, put this together about 5 years ago. And he drew a bunch of bros from actually not just bros, because we have Lisa Carlson in there.
That's true.
From the Ring of Honor. And we had a typical 12-team league. And then Ross and I kind of hatched a little plan where we were going to have a second league and have European football style relegation. So we have the Premier League of the Ring of Honor, the top 12 teams, and then we have a second league, and the bottom 2 teams in the Ring of Honor get thrown down to the second league, and the top 2 teams in the second league get promoted into the Premier League. And it's really good. It keeps your head in the game the whole year, and kind of have to sweat it out a little as you're getting towards the end of the year if you're at the bottom. But it works out really well, and I think everybody has a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I think it was a cool innovation on top of it to apply that European style soccer. And that threat of relegation is legit, right? You don't want to be relegated. Nobody does, but it also gives a chance for 12 more people to play. So we got 24 great flockers playing in these 2 leagues, and it's a ton of fun. And I'll just give a quick shout out. I don't know if folks use Sleeper. I was introduced via Ross Bell to Sleeper, and just, I play on all sorts, CBS. I still do one on Yahoo, yada, yada, yada. For me, I don't know, my money, I love that Sleeper app, man. This is unsolicited free advertisement for Sleeper, but I friggin' love the Sleeper app. It's, to me, is the best fantasy platform. Specifically, I love how they work. It's like it's a mini social network unto itself. And that's what they get so right. I tell all my friends on Long Island every single year, I'm like, guys, just switch to Sleeper because it makes trading so much simpler, because you could just DM and put trade offers right inside DMs and like negotiate right there in one stream. And it allows for a lot more trades because it removes all the friction of what typically happens on all the platforms. I don't know if you have an opinion on Sleeper or not, but I'm clearly a fanboy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I started my fantasy career way back in 1992 when it was just pen and paper.
I like how you called it a career, by the way. That's very, 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 very nice of you.
But my first site was CBS, and CBS would charge you $100 just to have your league, which was just ludicrous. I've been on Yahoo leagues, and finally this sleeper league came up, and I just totally agree with you. It's a great interface. It's really easy. It is very social, and it I probably would like to move my other league, my league of record, to
Nice.
sleeper. So you can just switch back and forth between leagues. So the only problem is some of my league mates are like, "Oh no, we've been in Yahoo all these years."
Yeah,
It's just like,
we fear change sets in,
yeah,
right?
we
So
don't know any better.
yeah, we were talking a little bit about what we do when we're. I mean, I believe you're retired now, and you travel to the UK and go to rock shows, and good for you. But I'm still in the midst of my career, so we were talking about just some of that stuff. And there's always that we fear change is always out there, and you have to navigate it. Sometimes you just got to pull the friggin' plug and say, you know what, we're doing it because this is better, and get used to it and do better. All right, so we've got some great topics that you've carved out, Dave. Where do you want to take us on topic number one? And let's kick this thing off, dude.
Well, let's talk about wide receivers because fantasy football has really evolved over the last couple of years. I would say even 10 years ago, the running backs would just dominate the first round.
For sure.
And now most leagues are PPR, which is points per reception. And that really puts a premium not only on the pass catching running backs, which are getting fewer and fewer, but I mean, these big time wide receivers, the Jeffersons, the Jamar Chase, the Cooper Cups are really huge. So it's really good to follow a team that has three legitimate wide receivers right now.
Maybe four, possibly.
Oh,
Let's talk Bobo, right? So,
um, Unfortunately, we had the news of JSN this week, but
yeah,
I think that's only going to keep him out 2 or 3 weeks at the most. So
I hope. Yep.
I think he'll still be very effective. One thing about fantasy football is your season is made in the second half of the year. So you can really kind of bounce a little in the beginning, put your team together. Your drafted team is never going to be your final team. So you can take a little chance. People get a little afraid when they see something like Kamara's 3-game suspension, but he comes back in week 4 and suddenly you have a number one running back to go with the rest of your team. And but back to the Seahawks receivers, I would assume that if you're going to want Metcalf, he's probably like his average draft position countrywide is around 17. So that puts him at the end of the 3rd round. Ain't going to happen in the Ring of Honor. I'll tell you that much.
Well, he did go first overall one year, right? Or was that Russ first and then DK second?
Yeah,
But
it was
there might
was
be
Vincent.
some bias that said
Vincent took him I think 6th or 7th overall, and we all laughed at him, and he had a
he
terrific
had a
year.
monster
So,
year, yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
nobody laughs at Vincent anymore. Well, we still do, but not over
not because of drafting DK,
that. Not because of DK.
but on
Um,
but on that DK front, Dave, like that it's quite interesting. Like you said, hey, wide receiver is a premium. I was on Long Island last week for a non PPR draft, and Justin Jefferson still went number 1, and Chase went 4th in non PPR, and I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." So it's only that much more dramatic in the PPR realm. And so it certainly is like overweight, it seems, maybe even over rotated a bit towards wide receiver. But I don't know, but between DK and Tyler, putting JSN aside for maybe a second, it's the gap between where people are drafting DK and then how low or how much more value there might be with Tyler. It kind of, as a Seahawks insider and fan, I'm like, ooh, these guys are actually really similar almost year in, year out in production. So it's like, is DK worth it in your opinion that high? Take the Seahawks Ring of Honor one out of the picture, because it'll be a little bit inflated. But for the average listener out there, average person playing across the board, would you take, let's say, DK in the 3rd or 4th, or Tyler in the 6th or 7th?
uh, well, I'm going to say this. So I love the Seahawks. You know that I grew up a Seahawks fan, and it was really nice when I lived in the Boston area. Because I could pick Seahawks, and now I'm in these Seahawks centered leagues,
Yeah.
and they're just going too early for when I personally would pick them. But to answer your question, in my ranks, I have DK 20th as a wide receiver and Lockett 22nd as a wide receiver. That just means that I value Lockett far above where he's being drafted, and I have DK rated a little bit below where he's being drafted in regular
Right.
countrywide leagues. So, yeah, a very simple answer to your question is that I would take Lockett over DK at their draft positions.
Yeah, I think there's more value there across the board. And it's, I get it. I get the personality of DK and I get the allure of DK. And he very well could come out and have a 12 plus touchdown year again. He's done it before. And Vincent Parker knows that. We mentioned him earlier. And still with that, you likely will still have that steady Eddie Lockett production where he's just been over 8 touchdowns a year for 5 years in a row, over 1,000 yards, and you kind of know what you're getting. And so he's got a very, I'd say, more solid floor. The floor versus ceilings in fantasy is a big topic always, where DK might be able to pitch higher because he does get those red zone targets, and that should continue. And with that, we didn't talk about the third wheel here, and not Bobo, JSN. So in your determination, what does JSN do to if you're really focused on DK and Tyler and you're not going after JSN just yet? What is JSN's being there? What does it do for DK and Tyler? Hurt, help, and why?
I think he's going to complement both of them because I don't think he's going to be a big touchdown guy, but he is going to be a big volume guy. He's going to be much more valuable in a PPR league, and I know that there are still people who play the non-PPRs. But he's the type of guy. Let's take Jefferson as an example. Last year, he had a down year for touchdowns, but he was still scoring 15 or 20 points a week because he was getting so many yards off of his catches. So I think JSN, he's going around the 8th round in the average draft. I think that's right about where he should go. He's going to get you in a PPR in the neighborhood of 7 to maybe 14 points every week. And that's really good because he is probably going to be your 3rd or 4th wide receiver. And I think that he definitely is a more reasonable target for the way I draft because I think he will be there around the 7th or 8th round where I'd be looking at him. Whereas I think, especially in our Seahawks heavy league, DK will go around before he should go. And I think that you are probably going to pick Lockett with your sandwich pick in the 2nd or 3rd round.
It's been on my mind, right? So I'm not gonna give away the ghost there. I do have the first overall pick in a PPR, three wide receiver, 2 flex league. So I do have the first pick. I won't say who I'm taking. However, no, I won't even give any clues. I won't do it. But you might be onto something with my affection and my positioning for Lockett there because I do value the dude for sure. And we'll talk about later. Drafting guys you love is fun, right? So it's also,
and you're a little bit in a tough spot because you definitely get the player you want, obviously, with the first pick. Then you have to wait a long time for your next 2 picks. But then if you don't pick those guys that you really like in that kind of upper part of the draft, then you got to wait that other long 24 picks. And Lockett just will not be there. If you really want him and you really like him, you got to take him with your 2nd, 3rd pick. Or
I feel like you're trying to put this into my brain right here, Dave. Like, take Lockett on the 2-3 turn, right? And it would be, of course, considered too early, and that I might just tell too early to go fly a kite. So we shall see. So it'll be a lot of fun though. I'm excited for it. I love my position this year because I get the dude I want. I know who it is. We're negotiating right now. I can't talk about it just yet. When he signs, we'll have a ceremony, of course. And I think there's so much. I'm excited to see what comes back for the 24th and 25th pick because I just think there's so much talent out there. And of course, who I love and who I'm projecting, I think I could get there. I've got like a batch of 3 to 5 that I'm really satisfied with, very, very happy with. Now we'll see.
Good.
Let's see what the pickings look like when it gets back to that turn.
Pickens, is that a hint?
Maybe the 4 or 5. We'll see, right? So, but with Pickett, by the way, Pickett's been tearing it up. Just talk a little football. What does he have? Like 5 drives this year in the preseason, 5 touchdowns. He is tearing it up. So it'll be interesting just to see some of these dudes, some of these later round guys, Sam Howell, Pickett, do they even get drafted? Are they waiver wire guys to go grab if you're drafting the second quarterback? But we are onto the topic of quarterback. Look how smooth that was, Dave. Yeah, you can't talk fantasy football. Well, you can't talk football without talking quarterbacks. And we got a good one. We got in real life, we got Geno Smith. And people might be like, well, Geno's good. He's average. He's above average. He's quite good. I think he's quite good. I think he's quite consistent. And he had 4,500 plus yards last year. And he had 30 touchdowns last year. He ran for a total of 31 touchdowns. So if you're looking at Geno Smith, again, getting outside the circle of just the Seahawks draft where he'll be inflated a bit, where do you place Geno in your hierarchy? And what would you tell people that are, not a Seahawks fan about the prospects for Geno in 23 fantasy wise?
I'd say that Geno was pretty amazing last year. If I remember correctly, you had him, right?
I did. At certain points, I had lots of quarterbacks. Yeah, I did. I did have Geno.
But I think you traded a quarterback that you picked earlier, which was really advantageous for you because you did have a really good starting quarterback. And you had that ability to trade, from strength and really help your team towards the end of the year. I think that there's a possibility that that's going to happen again this year because, Geno is projected to be the 14th quarterback, which I think is ridiculous. I think that's let's highly
talk
underrated.
About that. Just I want to give people an idea of the names that are around there, right? Because I was looking at this myself before we were hopping on CBS's like ADP. So 14th. So what are some of the QBs that are being on average drafted above him? Like who's 13, who's 12? Because some names were head scratches for me.
Yeah, I think you're looking at Cousins, and people are just wild over Richardson, over the possibility that he's going to be Jalen Hurts out of the gate, which is just ridiculous. I would take Geno over Richardson a million times. But I think that, again, if we go back and we say, if you're in a Seahawks local draft, Geno's probably going to go probably in the 7th round, maybe the 8th. He will be in the lower tier of starting quarterback. So he will be one of the top 12 quarterbacks, and he will be starting. If you're in a non-Seahawks league, he will definitely be a backup. So you can go ahead, if you really like Geno, wait on your quarterback. Take a Dak Prescott or a Deshaun Watson, and then take Geno, and you can really have a strong group of wide receivers and running backs if you wait that long in your quarterback. And if he does even 80% of what he did last year, you're going to have a really good starting quarterback.
And folks watching on YouTube, I've been looking down at my phone because I was just trying to harken back to this Long Island draft I was mentioning. By the way, this Long Island draft, me and my partner OPP, we've won 3 of the last 4 years. So we got something cooking. And the year we didn't win, we were in second place. In that particular league, we got Geno. Geno is our number 1 quarterback. We got him in the 11th round. We were the last team to draft a quarterback. And there were still some dudes that was like, well, even if somebody takes a second backup and they take Geno, I was still okay. And I think that's kind of the point too with QB overall, like philosophically. It's like, yeah, you got that top tier, right? We all know who they are. We got Mahomes, you got Allen. You might pitch Lamar into that top tier this year. You got Jalen Hurts because of the combination of what he brings to the table. And then there's a bit of a glut, in my opinion, where the percentage or the delta between dudes 5 through 14 or so, it's not that much, in my opinion. So you could be patient, still get high quality, and there is a line of being a little too cute. And I've gotten burnt in the years past. I think I had Derek Carr like a couple of years ago where my team was so good and I could not find my way to trade or get out of and Carr was okay. He was pretty good, but he really wasn't even pitching, into that area of the Kirk Cousins or Geno last year. So there's that balance in philosophy, but I don't mind getting I don't mind going for a value later in QB if I'm not dead set on getting like a top 3 dude.
I loved playing your team when you had Carr.
But I won most games, but that was my Achilles heel. And I lost in the playoffs because I just did not have the baseline of what a great QB can provide. And the playoffs we played in were obviously just that weak. And if you get a stinker, you are in danger, right? So a great top tier QB could really eliminate those stinker weeks. And if you get a stinker from your QB and under double digits or not under 15, your chances of winning drop. It's like an O2 count. Your chance of getting on base at that point, they drop precipitously. So I always keep saying lessons learned, and then I'm always like, yeah, but I like this positional guy. Like I want my fifth wide receiver before quarterback, and maybe one of these years I'll grow up. I don't know.
Well, fantasy football really is a bit of a crapshoot between injuries and guys coming out of nowhere. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I think
Your
I've gotten
career,
pretty savvy.
yeah.
Yes, it is my career. I think I've picked up a little bit of savvy as far as picking people in the middle rounds. So it does allow me to go ahead. One of the things that I had written prior to this show that I want to talk about was having your big three. If you have a really good team, you generally have three great players who are getting more than half your points. So, you talk about those top tier quarterbacks. Well, there's one of them who's getting you 35 points. And that means if you have a wide receiver that's getting you 20 points and a running back that's getting you 17, 20 points, then your team is pretty good. So last year, I rode Devontae Adams, Joe Burrow, and Ramondre Stevenson to the championship. That was my big three. They were consistent week after week after week. So if you think that you can get one of your big three, like you did in your 11th round, then, you already hold that first pick. And, I personally think you're going to be doing a skull clap, but, that's just what I think. That's my projection. So you put a good quarterback with a good wide receiver, and you grab one of those plenty of running backs in the second round or the third round, you're going to be doing very well.
Yeah, and I love the philosophy of the big three. The part, when you were talking about it, it's like, okay, you had Devontae, who started to become a little, people were a little more skeptical because of the change he had last year over to the Raiders, and he was still Devontae. He was freaking awesome. Now, it'll be interesting when no more Carr and Jimmy G is there. Will people be like, oh, too much change? Or will Devontae just be Devontae? Like, only time will tell on that one. You had Joe Burrow, which is a top 5 stud, and the one that really hit for you was Ramondre. Like that's a great pick. So it's not that you lucked into your big three. You got there, and it's almost like, hey, you could plan even with the top 24. You can plan for your 2 out of 3, the old meatloaf, right? You could plan for that. That other one, it might not be your 3rd round pick. It might be, I don't know where you drafted Ramondre. I would imagine he was nowhere near. Maybe
he was in the 5th, but my heart was beating as the pick was coming up because I really did want him, and I kind of, without sounding too braggadocious, like that was the early one who I really wanted because that was the one that I felt was going to, and I already had Kamara at that point, who was a huge disappointment, and it was funny that I thought my big three was going to be Adams, Burrow, and Kamara, but it was Adams, Burrow, and Ramondre.
Yeah, no, that's good job by you to target it that early because last year he was not. Plus Patriots, like, who are they going to play? Are they going to put out Jonas Grave to score 4 touchdowns and never see the field again? Like Belichick has done weird stuff. And of course, it is a PPR league, and Ramondre was an absolute PPR monster. And that alone, talking about floors, gave you an amazing floor with Ramondre, and he scored enough too. So I love the philosophy there. We are on the topic of running back. Bring it back to our Seahawks and talk to you about so you got K9, right? And I listen to CBS Fantasy Football, Fantasy Pros, and a couple of others. And frankly, for me, man, the biggest, I don't know, like one of the biggest shocks for me this year is how down, again, Seahawks leagues, how down the general population is on Ken Walker as a running back. They seem to be so
right
far
now,
down.
K9 ADP right now is 15. which is just absurd to me.
15th running back. That's not, remember,
Yeah,
not 15th overall. That's
right.
probably about
15th
position
running back.
50, 49, something like that, around
And
there.
that would be the start of the 4th round. Now,
Right.
again, our league, he'll be gone in the 2nd. But they, in his ADP, he's around players like Jamar Gibbs, Travis Etienne, Aaron Jones, who's in a running back by committee. Now, of course, the thought is that you pick Charbonnet in the 2nd round. We're automatically a running back by committee. And I just don't think that happens. I think Walker gets most of the carries between the 20s, and you know what his potential is of scoring outside of the 20s. So I cannot imagine that he is going to finish as low as 15 at the end of the year, other than the possibility of an injury.
And I think the real smart point you made there is, if you do dig into some of these fantasy podcasts, as I do, and Dave, I believe you do too, they will always talk about, hey, the between the 20s are kind of valueless for your running backs unless they're catching passes. And Walker's not going to catch too many passes, hopefully some more. He just kind of matures and gets more opportunity. And by the way, not to me, like, I think the dude could catch a football. I think if we ran him out on swing passes, he could be successful. I think if we knew how to screen, which I'm not sure we know how to screen quite yet, Dave, but I think he could be successful doing it. I think it's more of an opportunity thing versus a skill thing for him. And with that, you'll hear analysts talk about, well, the stuff in between the 20s doesn't matter. But like, you pointed out, maybe so for 95% of backs in the league. But K9, he's the dude with the gigantic breakaway ability. He's the guy that does get the 35-yard touchdown, the 70-yard touchdown, whatever it might be, where they're outside the red zone, then outside the green zone, which is considered the 10-yard and in. So all those things considered, you got this weight where the world is saying, well, Charbonnet, so automatically running back by committee. Okay, maybe so. And Charbonnet's the more bruiser, so he's going to get the goal line stuff. Okay, maybe so. Maybe those things are correct. And yet, K9 is still going to get the majority of the carries, and he has this great breakaway ability that Charbonnet does not have, and McIntosh does not have. And that's going to, so bottom line is, he's going to score his touchdowns. He's going to get in the end zone.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel that Walker's capable of 80 yards rushing a week?
Doing the quick math, 800, that's a 1,400 yard season, 1,450. Yes, of course he is. Yeah.
Okay. Is he capable of getting 20 yards of catches a week?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Is he capable of scoring a touchdown every week? Not every week, but
possible.
Any given week.
Let's say 14 plus touchdowns on the year. It just to put a ceiling. Yeah, that's possible.
So 1 point for every 10 yards plus the touchdown. You're looking at the potential of any given week getting at least 16 points.
Right.
There's your there's your big three running back.
Yep, absolutely. And he's not, and again, in leagues outside of Seahawks leagues, he's simply not being drafted that way. He has fallen.
No.
And this was before the Charbonnet pick. People were like, oh, Walker is a first round pick before the Charbonnet pick. So it's like, wait a second. Are you really telling me that Delta with Charbonnet? It's like there was going to be some backup. Somebody was going to be number 2. It happens to be Zach Charbonnet, and it might be some McIntosh, and DJ will get some touches. And it might be Sir Roderick Thompson week 1. We shall see as our Seahawks get out there. But the drop off just because of Zach Charbonnet, it doesn't add up for me. It seems so overreactive. So I think the folks who are not in Seahawks leagues where you can still get K9 at a value, to me, I think he's going to be one of the biggest come year end. I think he's going to be one of the biggest screaming values. But like, wait a second, I got a first round running back, and I got a mid 4th round because of Zach Charbonnet. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. So I think it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, you look all around the league. How many bell cows are there out there?
Not
a whole lot. Let's look at the Packers. Just any random team. We got them coming up. So Aaron Jones is their starting running back, and AJ Dillon is their backup. Yeah, it's a committee, but Aaron Jones gets the majority of the carries and the majority of the yards and the majority of the fantasy points. Yet the two of them are being drafted very close together. Aaron Jones should be going much higher than AJ Dillon. So, it happens all over. People get a little scared. Yeah, the number one running backs really need to be very well paid attention to, because they are getting points no matter if they're in a committee or not,
Yeah.
as Ramondre did for me last year with Damian Harris behind him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Still a good dude there who's now in Buffalo. And yet it did not matter when it came time, especially in a PPR league, for Ramondre just to do his thing. And the point on the bell cows is every year there's less. Like even this year, everybody, who's the biggest bell cow? Who do you think of? Derrick Henry, right? Okay.
Derrick Henry.
Well,
Yeah.
Derrick Henry has legitimate, for the first time in a while, there's a legit number 2 sitting there now who is going to take snaps from Henry, because Tajay Spears is a different type of back and very, very well equipped to go help that offense in a team that's going to run the ball a lot. They're going to dink and dunk a lot. They don't exactly, the Titans don't exactly have a plethora of weapons out there on the outside. Even with Hopkins, it's still not the most explosive offense. So even your old standard bell cows will have a little bit less this year. And so I'm looking forward to another season of the Seahawkers podcast, Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League that Ross Bell had started and you helped grow even further. It is a ton of fun. And, sports are fun, right? It's entertainment. And then there's a level of fantasy sports. And we've been on Fantasy Island and they're meant to be fun. One of the things I really like, and I want to land it here with you, Dave, is that fantasy sports also is a catalyst to understand the league with more breadth for me. It's made me, so as I podcast and as I've gotten more serious and want to do more and more of this as part of my life, I find that my knowledge of fantasy makes me a better podcaster. It's like, oh, I could talk more, way more wide than I used to be able to, because I pay attention. Whereas in baseball, I'm a Mets fan, so it's been a rough year regardless, but I don't play fantasy baseball. So, I couldn't tell you who the starting third baseman for the A's is right now. However, if I played fantasy baseball, I bet I could. So it really does expand the aperture of who you care about. It makes some of those Sunday night and Monday night football games so much more fun. So you don't got to go on FanDuel or DraftKings. Nothing wrong with that. We have a whole show about betting props. It's a lot of fun. But for folks who might poo-poo fantasy, I would say take it from the lens of it actually helps you become a better fan, a more knowledgeable fan. What do you think about that, Dave?
Well, first, I'm going to dispute that even A's fans know who the A's third baseman is. But your point is well taken, because when I moved to Hong Kong, just because of the timing of it, I stopped really closely following NBA and NHL. And, I would still read ESPN every morning, and there'd be maybe a trade deadline chatter or, a list of the best players. And I didn't know who half the people were because I just didn't watch it anymore. But, as everybody knows the story, where I would drug myself with NyQuil at 6 p.m. and so I could wake up at 2 a.m., watch football all night, and then go to work. I watched every game on Red Zone. I was involved in 2 fantasy leagues, and I just know every single player. And it is great. It's great to know you can scout the teams coming up that you're watching. You got a little bit more emotional investment in your own team. And like you said, when you're watching just a random game, like who cares about the Buccaneers and the Falcons? But hey, I got Bijan Robinson. It's like, holy crap, I really care about this game today. So.
Yeah. Yeah,
it really enhances.
It does. It makes something that's already fun that much more fun, which is the point, right? And all these other exercises that we have to do that are the lighter things in life, which this podcast for me has been and continues to be, which is a lot of fun. So, and Dave, thank you so much, dude. This was fun. Glad you pinged me on Facebook saying, hey, what do you think about hopping on? I loved it from Jump Street, and thank you for being patient with me, working out the schedule so we can get this done. And for the folks out there, get involved, have some fun. If you are enjoying the podcast, the normal stuff we do, not Fantasy Island, we love this. This is an extra. This is a cherry on top. Remember, 4 to 5 times a week in the season, Seahawkers podcast. We've got the flagship show that's coming out Wednesdays and Thursdays. We do the What If show, which is our unique preview with Mr. Phil Leidick, the protector. We do PNW Prop Stars, which will probably be out on Saturday mornings this year with Wilson Kahn and Adam, and that's our gambling show. We do 3 and 3 Out, which is the recap show we do. So there's always content on the Seahawkers Podcast Network. So go check it out. follow at Seahawkers Pod on YouTube. Once again, youtube.com/Seahawkers Podcast. Do the likes, do the follows, do the whole thing. It helps the algorithm. And Dave, with that, I think there's only one thing left to say, bud.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.